Roxanne. Letting them in.
All right. Welcome everyone. Hi, we're going to get started. Everyone's just connecting. Hi, you are in a 2-color brioche in the round demo, and we'll get started after everybody gets joined. We're just giving them a few more minutes to let everybody connect.
You should be good to go.
All right. All right, we'll get started. You are in the 2-color brioche in the round demo. Hi, I'm Suzanne Nielsen. I'm going to be doing this demo, and Nick is also here. She's going to be answering questions in the chat and helping out. So hi, Nick, thank you.
Hi.
But if you have any questions, yeah, feel free to post them in the chat or raise your hand or flag us down. And we like to have a little bit of feedback too. So if you feel comfortable, please share your screen and let us know where you're from. It's kind of fun. And we'll get started here. So this is this the 18th? I think this is the 18th. Tutorial Tuesday that we've been doing, and this is the 3rd brioche one. So we've already learned just 1-color brioche flat. We've also learned the 2-color brioche flat, and now today I'm going to show you the 2-color brioche in the round. So let's just dive right in here. I have a sample here that I made, and we're going to be talking about I'm going to be showing you how to do this. This is actually just a little cozy, and it is in a pattern that we'll show you a little bit later. But it's 2-color brioche. So you have the light color, the yellow color, and a dark color. And 2-color brioche is really nice because it is reversible. So you can see on this side, the green pops out. I don't know, hard to see a little bit, but the green pops out more. And then on this side, the yellow pops out more. And I'm also going to cover today how to do just a little color change. So it might be a little hard to show up on the screen, but if you can see it here, there's kind of a box here that's a little bit different color. And I'm going to show you how to do that so that you can make kind of like shadow knitting or something. It's just a little bit different colors. So without further ado, I'll jump in. I do teach this 2-color brioche in the round as a beginning class. So, if you really, are drawn to this 2-color brioche, then don't be hesitant to jump right into 2-color brioche. I would say it really, for some people, it actually helps you, keep track of when you have your bark stitch or or you need to do the slip-one yarn over. So if you'll remember when we did 1-color brioche, we worked on doing the bark stitch, which is when you knit the stitch together with the yarn over that you've put over it from the previous round, and then also slipping the stitch that's by itself and giving it a yarn over. So that's what we do here in the 2-color brioche. So I think I'm going to really concentrate on some of the things that people get hung up on and just what the difference is between doing it in the round. The biggest difference doing it in the round is that you're always on the right side. And that's kind of nice because, you know what you're doing more. It's a lot easier, I think, to read your work and find out where you are. The other really nice thing about being in the round, it's kind of the same way the other ones too, but it's blatantly obvious when you're in the round, is that when we're using the lighter color, so in this case, the yellow color, we're always going to be working the stitches that are in the column that's that color. And then slipping, you can see this here is a column of stitches that is the green color. So when we're using the yellow color, we'll be slipping those stitches. And I'll do a demo with this. So I'm going to hop right into it. and that'll become more obvious. But I can tell that I need to start with the yellow because I need to do something or work the stitches that are in the yellow column because they already have this yarn over together with them. And then the green column is lonely right now. It's just got one stitch that's in that green column. So like I said, you can go back and watch the videos from the previous ones too, if this isn't making any sense at all, but we've already covered. So doing a bark stitch is our BRK, brioche knit stitch, is just knitting the stitch together with the yarn over that's there. So we knit that stitch together. And then we need to do the slip one yarn over stitch because this stitch is just all by itself. So that's how you know you need to give it a yarn over. To give something a yarn over, you always bring the yarn to the front and then slip the stitch and do the yarn over. And then we knit the next one. So when we're working with the yellow, bring it to the front, slip it, yarn over. I'm gonna start going a little faster too, so you can see what it looks like when you start to get into a rhythm. See here, I knit it. I just kind of did the yarn over with my needle. So that essentially brought the yarn to the front and slip it and let the yarn over go. But it can go a lot faster once you get a motion. But again, remember all the technical things. It's really bringing the yarn to the front and then slipping the stitch. And that way you make sure that your yarn over straddles the stitch that's there. So moving along here, when you get to the I'm using magic loop. So this is, I guess, a little tutorial on that too. But when I'm doing bring the yarn to the front and then slip the stitch and yarn over. When I'm in the middle of my round, I do have this yarn over that kind of feels like it's hanging out in the middle, but really don't let that, bother you. Just go with it. And then readjust your needles for magic loop. And then
And while Suzanne is readjusting her needles, in the chat, I posted the link to our YouTube channel, which has all the previous tutorials that we've done, including the ones on brioche.
So
if you want to get caught up or you want to see them again, they're all there. All you have to do is click on the link in the chat.
Yes. All right, so now I'm readjusted, so I'm just continuing along. So I'm doing the brioche knit and then bringing it to the front, slipping to give a yarn over, knit, and then I'm going to go back and do this throwing style too, but I'm much more comfortable picking. All right, and then so in this one, oh gosh, see, I just made a mistake because I'm trying to go fast, but so I could see that I needed to knit this one. So I had to go back. And then when we get back around with the green color, and I'll show you how to switch colors in the round. So we end this row with bring it to the front, a slip one, and a yarn over. But it's hard because that, yarn over is just hanging out there. So the trick is to bring the new color that you're going to start working with. I'm going to start working with this dark green one. So bring that color underneath the light color and over the top. And that will kind of lock in the yarn over that's there. And then the yarn over will be hanging out for you next time when you go to knit. All right, so now also when you work in the round, you don't have to slide your work back to pick up the other color. You just alternate between the colors. So you just finished a row with the lighter color, so now you need to use the darker color. And you can also tell it because this column that's green, the darker color, has the yarn over associated with it. So if I kind of spread my work out, I can see that the yellow stitches are a column all on their own. And so they need to get given a yarn over, and the green column is the one that needs to be worked, I call it. And so that's the one that we're going to do the this time the brioche purl stitch. So when you're knitting simple 2-color brioche in the round, the one color, if you're not doing any fancy color changes, which I'm going to go over in a little bit, you get to just do the same. So the green one is always going to get burped or brioche purled, and the light one always got knit. So in the last round we knit, this one we bring the yarn to the front and slip 1 yarn over. So that is the first stitch. So don't be scared about that being the first stitch. And then we're purling in this one. So we need to bring it to the front and we do a brioche purl stitch. And then our yarn is already in the front. So I can go ahead and slip the stitch and give it a yarn over and then do the brioche purl stitch. So to the front, slip, yarn over, brioche purl. So I'll pick up my pace a little bit so that we can get through this. And I will show you throwing because it does look a little different. Actually, halfway through my round here, I'll go ahead and throw the rest of this one. So again, I'm going to have to start out with a yarn over, slip 1. Okay, switching hands. I can do it. All right. So I bring the yarn to the front, wherever my needle is, bring the yarn to the front and slip 1 and then give it that yarn over. And then do a purl stitch, maybe. Okay, yarn's already to the front, so I slip it and give it a yarn over and purl. So you really make sure that your yarn over straddles your stitch. See how my yarn over starts on this side of the stitch and ends up on the opposite side versus sitting in between the stitches. So you really want to make sure that your yarn over is straddling. And I am very slow this way.
It's okay, we can see it better.
Okay. Oops. And next week, is it next week? No, next week, well, we'll talk about that, but we are going to also do fixing mistakes.
Simple mistakes.
Simple mistakes, yes. Brioche is a little difficult, so we recommend lifelines, right? Yes. So you can always just pull it back, but we will teach you how to fix some simple mistakes.
And how to rip.
Yes, yes.
Because ripping is so cathartic, just yanking everything out.
Yes. All right. So I don't really worry about my last stitch getting pulled because the next time around, I'll just give it a little tug before I start the next row. But that row I finished with a brioche purl stitch. So it is kind of locked in. And so for this, when I switch back again, I can just kind of leave this darker color yarn wherever it goes and pick up the light one and start going. So that is 2-color brioche in the round, just very simple, where you always want your yellow color to pop forward and you always want your green color to kind of recede into the back. And so like I mentioned, the yellow, when you're working, when you're using the yellow yarn, you're always working on, let's say, like the odd stitches. So the first stitch, the third stitch, and so on. And when you're using the green color, you're always working on the even stitches. So the second stitch, the fourth stitch, or you can really think about columns because it makes it easy to follow your work up. And when we get into increases and decreases, that's next week, I think. Then you'll see more how those kind of columns flow together. And that'll be really important to visualize and conceptualize. But we're going to take a short break and it's going to show us something
Yep.
you can do with your newfound
Absolutely. And before we
challenge.
move on, we did have a question in the chat
Okay.
from Janice who asks, can you use lifelines? Yes. My gosh, yes. Use lifelines.
All the time, really,
Always,
if you want to.
especially in brioche.
Yes,
And the
brioche is
first time that
one
you're
that's
knitting a
really good
yeah,
for it.
and the first time that you're knitting a brioche shawl and you forget one of the side increases, you're really gonna want that lifeline.
Yeah.
Ask me how I
Yes.
know. All right.
Yes.
All right. So
Yeah, and I see another question about the when do you use purling versus knitting? And that is actually something I'm gonna get into right after the break.
yeah.
So
So
I'm gonna expand on
while
that
we
after.
do our little break, I
Yes.
will do this. So the discount code for tonight that you can see on your screen is in the round, one word, all capitals. It is also in the chat if you want to grab it there. Discount code for the next 48 hours in the round, get 20% off site-wide. Woo! So that includes the knit alongs, the grab bags, which as you all know, we are quite fond of, and the kit, which I will show you a few right away. Now, the first one that I will show you is called, whoop, trying to get the, and it is called, let me share my screen, Making Waves by our very own Suzanne. Ta-da! So she will
And
actually be showing you all the techniques used in the pattern tonight. Yay! Thank you, Suzanne.
and the sample that I was showing, it is the cozy from this pattern. So that is in there.
Yes, so we have the Making Waves Cowl Kit. So again, the 20% discount applies to the kit as well. And our other offering tonight is the Simultaneous Contrast. And sorry, I keep fiddling the wrong one. There we go. Simultaneous Contrast Cowl, which I'm actually wearing right now. Ta-da! Because it's really freaking cold up here in Montreal today. For some reasons, not all of us are in Texas where it's 100 degrees. So our simultaneous contrast cowl, which I will try to give you an up close and personal look at right there. Now, yes, this has increases and a couple of decreases. So, but please do not panic because we're going to be going over increases and decreases next week. And this would actually be a really great project to practice that because it's actually just 4 rows repeated the entire way. How fun is that?
It looks way more complicated than it really is.
Really looks a lot more complicated than it actually is, which is why it is such a great piece because it's a lot of bang for your buck. Yeah. We like projects that look like that. So those are our two projects that we have on our kits that we have on offering tonight. So again, we had the Making Waves Cowl Kit, which includes enough yarn to do the cowl, and I do believe the cozy.
Yes. Yep. You can practice. The idea is that you can practice on the cozy and then, then you're ready to go for the cowl.
Because your coffee is not going to care if you make a mistake.
Right.
On the contrary, your coffee might appreciate it. And the Simultaneous Contrast Cowl, of course, which is a great project. And with our tutorial next week, which will teach you increases and decreases, which you will need for this one, would be a great, great, great first 2-color project. This one's in the flat. It is knit flat, but I think it would be a good challenging beginner project for brioche.
Adventurous beginner would say that, right?
Beginner, yes. Yep, definitely. So both of the links, Roxanne so very generously put them in because my computer is ancient and doesn't do anything. I can't copy paste. So both of those links are also in the chat right now. So if you want to click on that to get to the cowl kits, feel free to do that. So there you go. And we will be posting those again before the end of the night if you missed them right now. Remember that you can't copy paste from the chat for security reasons. So you do need to click on the link in order to open a web browser page. Once you're open, you're golden. So there we go.
Yay.
And that was that for now. And oh, and don't forget our next tutorial, which we did mention once or twice. Next tutorial Tuesday is going to be Brioche basic increases and decreases, which Roxanne has also put in the chat because she's
Yay.
awesome. So there we go. It is the very last link in the chat is to sign up for next week's increases and decreases in Brioche. And in 2 weeks, we will be doing mistakes or, you know, design elements.
Nobody makes those.
Let's
right?
call them that.
Yes.
Let's call them design elements.
All right.
So there we go. And back to you,
now back to some more techniques. We just before the break, we had the question of how do you know when to knit or when to purl to do the brioche purl? That is a great question. The short answer is it is pretty easy to tell actually, and it makes more sense when you talk about syncopated brioche. Sorry, and that is where you're changing color. So that's where you see this like different color, and that was in the that's what's in the Make Waves cowl. So you we can look at the picture, but there's like a wave going through the cowl. And the pattern is actually written so that you can make up your own color changing pattern. If you don't want to do the waves, you can try something else. In this one, I just did a very simple box, but you know, the possibilities are endless. And I'm going to show you how it's actually pretty easy to do that.
You
can, there you go.
I shared my screen on that particular picture and we can really see the waves.
The wave.
Going there even better on that side.
Yes. And it's reversible. You can see it. Yes. You can see the wave on both sides, just like you can see the box on both sides of this cowl or this little cozy as well. And that is why. So when you're doing two-color brioche, you always know that you need to knit the two stitches together if you see the column of knits. So in this case, I can kind of look at the work. If I'm on this stitch, I'd be knitting. If I'm in this column, I'd be purling. And so what happens is when you do a brioche knit stitch, it pops forward. But when you do a brioche purl stitch, it recesses back. And you can still, you know, see both colors, but you can really tell that you're in these columns. And so when you're in a column that you want to pop forward, then you knit it. If you want your column to recess back, then you purl it. So let's take a really close-up look of this, this sample here. Let's see, how close can I get without it looking too weird? So if we look at this, these columns are all yellow. So these were all just knit and then knit, and this one gets slipped. But when you are using the green color, you're purling it, so it gets recessed. But what happens when I do the color change is that I'm still working on the same column. So you're still working the stitches that are like odd, the odd stitches. So with the yellow yarn. But what happened is when I got up to the box point, so up to here in the knitting, I started purling, and you can see how it just recessed back a little bit. And it's a little bit more clear when you're looking at the green column. So here's the darker color yarn. So all along down here, I was purling those. And then when I got to this point, I started knitting it instead of purling, and it popped forward just a little bit. It's very subtle, and it really doesn't show up too much until you like step back and look at it from afar, or change it in the light. I feel like it's not really showing up in the camera too much here, but you know, you can see it. It is a little subtle, but that's kind of the beauty of it. I would say. So that's what syncopated brioche is. It's when you you know, you take your 2-color brioche, and every once in a while you start knitting the ones that were purled and recessed and purling the ones that were sticking out. So I hope that answers the question a little bit. I'm going to do the first row of the color change so that you can see that done and how it looks and what you're looking for. In the pattern, in the Make Waves pattern, I actually, it's written out and it's charted in 2 different ways, because there are a lot of different ways that people, you know, like write the patterns for brioche. And I am a fan of a kind of a simple chart that's just a visual, and so you know what's going on. And so that's one way I do it, but I also chart it out where you see every single stitch and slip, so that you can follow it that way too and start to learn and get a feel for it. So I'm going to follow a pattern. I guess I could pull it up, but I'm just going to tell you what the pattern will say. The pattern will say to do like 3 normal normal knit stitches, and then when we're going to change the color, and 4 stitches are going to be the opposite color. So I'll show you what happens when the pattern will tell you to do your, you know, brioche knit stitch, brioche knit, slip 1 yarn over, brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over, brioche knit, slip 1 with the yarn over. Okay, now I'm still working on this column, but now I want this column to start to recess, to go back. So now I bring it to the front, and then I purl. I do a brioche purl instead of a knit, but I still slip this one and give it a yarn over. And then also I want this one to recess, so I purl it and then yarn over, then brioche purl, yarn over, brioche purl, get those to recess. And now I'm going to switch back. Now I'm going to switch back because I just wanted these 4 stitches in the middle to make that box. So now I'm going to go back to, I still need to do my slip 1 yarn over the same way, but now I need to knit, knit those together. So yarn over, slip 1, and knit those, slip 1. All right, now I will do, I will throw on the back side here and do that exact same thing again on the back side. And that's just to make, you know, in the other half of the round. Oops. So I lost my over here. Okay. So now I'm going to throw, so brioche knit, bring it to the front and slip 1 and just let it go over for the yarn over.
I think I have froze.
That's a brioche purl stitch. And then I'm already in the front, so I just get to slip and give it a yarn over and brioche purl. Now again, I'm already in the front, so I just get to slip it and give it a yarn over and brioche purl. Slip it, give it a yarn over, 1 more brioche purl, and then I'll do my slip 1, yarn over, and now I'm going to just make sure 1 yarn over. I'm going to start knitting again. So now I'll do the, sorry, so just slip back into picking. I do a knit stitch, and now I need to bring it to the front to do the slip one and get the yarn over and do the brioche knit stitch. And again, bring it to the front and slip one. All right, so now I'm going to bring my yarn over. So if you can see, like I ended with that yarn over, I'm going to take the next color under that color and over the top before I start the next round. And that will lock that yarn over in place. All right, now we'll do the next row with the darker color. So now for the darker color, it's gonna, we still want it to recess for the first 3 stitches. And I start with a slip one yarn over. So I make sure that the yarn is in front and do the slip one and give it a yarn over. And then I'm gonna do a brioche purl, slip one yarn over, brioche purl, slip one yarn over, brioche purl. Okay, now the next one, instead of recessing, I want it to start popping out. So I still do my slip one and I have a yarn over there, but now I'm going to knit, brioche knit. And then slip one brioche purl, brioche knit, slip one brioche purl, brioche knit, slip one, knit, slip one. Okay, now I'm gonna go back to purling. So I bring it to the front and I do a brioche purl. My yarn's already in the front, so I slip it, give it a yarn over, brioche purl. All right, now I'll do the side throwing.
And while Suzanne is doing that, if anyone has any last minute questions, feel free to put them in the chat because we are going over our time. So feel free to type them in. Remember that this is recorded so you can watch it again and again.
All right, so I'm bringing my yarn to the front because my first stitch is a slip one, give it the yarn over, and I still want to purl the first 3 stitches like I was doing before. Slip one yarn over, brioche purl, slip one yarn over, brioche purl. All right, so I did, let's look. I did do 1, 2, 3 stitches, which is what I want. So I'm gonna slip this one and give it a yarn over, but now I'm going to go into knitting the next 4 stitches. So I do a brioche knit stitch, bring the yarn to the front, slip the stitch, and then do a brioche knit stitch. Bring the yarn to the front, slip one, brioche knit, front, slip one, brioche knit. All right, but now we're gonna do our to the front, slip one, but now we're gonna go back to purling. So I do need to come all the way around, give it that yarn over, and bring my yarn to the front and purl. And slip one with the yarn over, and then finish off with a brioche purl. And you won't see it right away, but it takes a few rows to start to show up. Right now, it just kind of looks a little bit messy, but don't let that throw you off. In the end, it will come out, it will look like this. You can kind of see where I start to do it. It takes a little bit to show up on your needles. So I hope that cleared a little bit of things up and gave you some confidence to try out some 2-color brioche in the round. It's really great. The other thing I was going to say is I really like just a simple rolled edge for brioche in general. And because it rolls up nicely, you know, all on its own. It's just cast on and then knit a few rows plain in stockinette, and then you just let it roll up and then you start into your brioche. So yeah, I think we already went over. So if we have any, do we have any questions, Nick, that I should address or?
Nothing that popped up in the chat. So
Okay.
ask your questions now or forever hold your peace.
Hold your peace. Or next time. I always think of a lot of things coming up, you know, like I'm sure Nick was thinking of a lot of things I could have said and added in, but we always, that's why we're a good team. So yeah, you know, one of the things I did want to say is normally when you're doing your edge, like normally when you do, say, your cuffs on a sleeve or the edge of a cowl or something, sometimes you'd go down in needle size, but in brioche it's kind of the opposite. I usually use a smaller needle in my actual body with brioche because just of the nature of the stitch. At least for me, I find that a smaller needle makes it look better. You can kind of see my tension down in this part of the cozy was a little kind of loosey-goosey, and then I got a little bit tighter and it looks a lot neater towards the top. And that is, you know, I was just pulling tighter, but that's what doing a smaller needle will give you too. So you do, you know, probably want to do like a little bit of a gauge and see what looks good and what kind of material you like. Yeah, I'll show you the opposite side. So this is, you know, inside out. You can see that here the green color is more prominent, and then the box, the yellow color just pops through. There's actually, I mean, gosh, well, just knitting in general, you know, of course you can do so many things, but you can see like right here, I have two like knit columns in a row. And I've actually seen it is possible to like only do knit columns, and it has a little different effect. Yeah, so anyway, that's just another something to explore when you're looking into all the wonderful things you can do with brioche. So
absolutely. And don't forget to sign up for our next week's tutorial,
yes,
which is increases and decreases. And also don't forget to use your discount code in the round, good for 48 hours starting tonight, Tuesday, 1937 Eastern Standard Time.
Thank you so much for joining us, for having fun doing these. Thanks for supporting us and coming to these. And we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.